Central Rundown. I'm Eric, and with me today,
Warren,
Sam,
that sounded like a prison lineup, guys. Like that was what was that? And today we're talking season previews. So this is our second episode that we just started doing, and today we're talking all things Tigers and all things Royals. So before we get into that, how's everyone's spring training going? We're a week out, basically.
I believe the Tigers just beat the Twins yesterday, right?
They did 5-6, yes.
And then we lost to Boston today. Kind of stunk, but
Right.
whatever. We beat the Twins. So is that.
Is anybody really excited based purely off of spring training stats? Because I can tell you Ty France is exceeding all expectations because they were that big before.
Yeah, this Casey Mize has looked so good this spring. It's good. I'm excited for him.
Well, he's throwing 107.
Yeah, that's true. He's got 106 sinker apparently.
well, famously, if you have a good spring training, you will 100% of the time have a good season. So,
Yes, that's how it works.
that's how it works.
Yep.
unfortunately,
do they do
I've not been
anything?
I've not been able to watch any White Sox spring training games. I just signed up for their new streaming package, and they haven't really broadcast any, and I've been busy for the ones that they have. But the opening day starter has what's his name? He's some really young guy that is one of the top fewest games played ever for an opening day starter. So I guess he's had a good spring. I can only assume.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun start off. We'll get into when we talk about the White Sox next time, but that's going to be a real interesting underline because they certainly did not get better over the offseason. But
Do they do anything when when spring training's over and for the team that wins the Cactus League or the Grapefruit League, do they get a trophy or anything, or is it just hey, we
heard of
won,
anything.
good, yay us type
I
thing?
think it's like a picture being hung up on the fridge. It just goes there and
Yeah.
nobody really cares anymore.
Yeah.
So
It's like winning the minor league World Series.
Yeah. If anything, I feel like they would want to not acknowledge it just because it would be kind of bad luck or
If
something.
you stink during the regular season, then it's well, we won spring training. Kind of doesn't really do anything.
you make fun of winning the minor league World Series, but the Twins were notorious when with Terry Ryan, they would draft all their first round picks and they'd put them in rookie ball, 22, 23 year or 20, 21 year olds, and they'd be putting them in with 17, 18-year-old kids, and they won the Elizabethton Twins won 10 straight rookie ball titles, and it was just for that reason to rack up. Or when they used to call up a bunch of guys in September when they could call up to 40, they would hold them in AAA so that they could win that title. So somebody has done it before.
Yeah, that's how every time it comes on every summer, I always fantasize about being able to play in the Little League World Series as an adult,
Right.
with those short fences and oh man, if only.
If only you're going to hit dingers. That's still fun. That will never not be
You
fun.
need a 12-year-old on the mound in order to be able to do that, though, right?
Right.
You need
Yeah, no,
we're
everyone else is the same. I get to join.
I would like to
No one gets
see.
anything.
I would like to see the Little League World Series champions play against some random Friday night men's league softball team,
That'd be great.
and just see what happens.
That would be really. Somebody please make that happen.
Just
That would
like
be
some Friday night beer league softball team going up against the Little League World Series champions. That would be something, wouldn't it?
I think the adults win every time.
Yeah, they just got size advantage. They're a foot and a half taller.
Well, some of those kids in the Little League World Series are 6'4", 225 pounds. But that's not most of them.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I got Danny Was it Danny Almonte? Who was the guy that was, or the kid that was way older? He was 60.
Yeah, there's been a few cases of that. The only time I really paid attention to the Little League World Series is the year that Michigan beat Ohio in order to win something. That was cool. I don't know if it was the World Series or it was like the before, whatever. But Michigan beat Ohio in the finals, and it was great. So.
All right. Well,
All right,
with
is there any? I was just going to say, is there any news we want to go over before we dive into the preview?
Lewis.
define want to go over.
Well,
Put one tally under Twins injuries so far.
They almost made it to opening day.
I read an article. So last year he played on opening day and then got injured on opening day.
Not only did he get injured on opening day, his first at bat, he hit a home run. His second at bat, he got on, I think he drew a walk, and then tried going first to third and strained his oblique and was out for 2 months in his second at bat. And then the worst part is he was at the top of the OPS charts technically for the Twins for like 2 months because he had like a 1400 OPS. So you just had to see the ghost of Royce Lewis above and his immortal stat line.
nice.
But
That's
yeah,
fun.
so Royce, I was actually watching. It was the first broadcast of the Twins' new streaming deal, and yeah, Royce was running to first and was trying to beat out an infield single. And about 30 feet from the bag, he pulled up, and everyone knew it. Rocco Baldelli was actually talking to the Twins booth on the headset when it happened, and he said, "Sorry guys, I have to go." And like, you almost heard the Wile E. Coyote wheel like running animation out there.
So what I'm hearing is he shouldn't be running on the bases. He should only walk and hit home runs, and then just have a pinch runner in every time.
Yeah. The weirdest thing, that's how he's gotten injured. Essentially like 2 or 3 times. If you remember a couple years ago, he had a really scary like near collision at first base where he ended up flipping and he like landed on his head and like at the Scorpion, if you ever Google that, but like it looked like he broke his neck if you just freeze it in that frame. So he has real scary moments in just running the bases. And then even when he started his rookie year, he tore his ACL, but missed a year because of an ice storm. The next year he came back, played center field for Byron Buxton for a game, and then crashed into the wall and re-tore his ACL when he crashed into the wall.
Oh, jeez.
Like, it just, this kid is so, like, you feel bad for him. And then also, if you've seen anything on him, he says like, "Oh yeah, this isn't nearly as bad as the oblique strain that from last year." But like, Royce Lewis is the most happy-go-lucky guy you've ever encountered. It seems like he's the guy that when a kid asks him for an autograph, he asks for the kid's autograph back.
Oh, that's sweet.
It is very sweet, but this is the type of person we're dealing with. So like, he's probably out for a month, but he's telling people, "Well, they haven't ruled me out for the home opener in 2 weeks," when even the Twins are like, we kind of have. I didn't think we needed to rule you out. It was understood, but
It's even more cursed when you lay it all out like that.
yeah. So poor guy, but I guess we've waited for Royce Lewis before, and we'll do it again.
Other news, doesn't quite count as AL Central because the White Sox released him, but Joey Gallo becoming a pitcher, that could be fun.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
I do kind of like that. He has
maybe he'll be good. You never know.
I mean, he had a cannon of an arm in outfield, so you know. I mean, if you could throw fast and maybe get like one breaking ball in there, as long as he's accurate, why not?
Yeah, he's had such a weird skill set because he's always been 3 true outcomes, but like he's like the only 3 true outcomes guy who's also like won a Gold Glove in the outfield. Yeah. Most of them like all suck, are all Adam Dunn in the field, you know.
I like Joey Gallo. I think the Yankees ruined him, and then he was never good after that.
I was half expecting the Royals to pick up Joey Gallo this offseason because this was maybe toward the end of last year, there was some sort of statistical thing that I saw that Joey Gallo was like the best non-Royal at Kauffman Stadium over the past 5 years or something like that. So I was half expecting the Royals to pick him up, but maybe it's a good thing they didn't.
If the White Sox don't want you, then yeah, I think you're in a bit of a bind.
That was kind of surprising because to me, if you're the White Sox, why not? I know he wants to switch to pitching, but like
it's a minor league deal too. Like it's not like they're losing anything. But
I don't know.
Unless he wanted it and then just thought he could pick up with another. I don't know.
Well, he didn't have a spring training, and a good spring training. So they've got a few guys that's, depth piece veterans that are just on 1-year contracts. So maybe they just had more faith in, Brandon Drury than say him. So I think it was just a roster crunch type thing. And they're like, yeah, I guess, we won't even lie to ourselves and say that we have use for you.
Oh, not to backtrack, but I found the White Sox opening day starter is Sean Burke.
That's right.
Anyone want to guess how many games he has appeared in at the major league level?
17.
Lower.
Well,
Like 2.
4.
Wow.
Wow.
Good luck, kid.
They got no one else?
I mean, there's like Martin Davis that they could, just because he's a veteran. There's Jonathan Cannon, who's like a little bit better than him, but he's also like, played a little bit more last year, but not as much as he did. So, and then, they had a few options, but none that were really that different than he is. So, who knows? That'll be a fun thing to watch, though. First guy, first game. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Only piece of Royals news that springs to mind is that they sent Jack Caglione, their top prospect, down to the minor leagues, which was a somewhat piece of controversy, as he had, I think, hit 3 home runs this spring training, and I think almost had like a 2,000 OPS so far in spring training, and he was like 9 out of 17 so far. But he was drafted last year in the first round, and he has never played above A ball. So some people wanted him to make the roster out of opening day, or the opening day roster out of spring training, and I kind of don't understand that, because I don't think those people understand how baseball works. But Caglione he's going to start out in Double-A this season, and I expect that we'll be seeing him. I think we'll be seeing him at some point in the middle of the year. But some of those home runs he hit like a 450-foot home run in spring training. So, but last year the guy was playing college baseball, so
yeah, maybe not start him on the opening day roster.
Yeah, I think we can pump the brakes a little bit on him.
Wait, speaking of Royals players playing college baseball, who was that guy who played in the College World Series and Ferguson, something like that?
Brandon Finnegan.
Brandon Finnegan. What a story that was.
Yep, he played in the College World Series and then got called up at the end of the year, made the Royals postseason roster, and then pitched in the World Series in 2014 for the Royals. So he played in the College World Series and in the Major League World Series in the same year. But then, of course, Raul Mondesi, later known as Adalberto Mondesi, is the only player in MLB history to make his debut in the World Series.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that happened in 2015. He pinch hit like late in one of the games. I don't know. I think they just had him on the roster as like a speed base running option. But he is the only player to make their debut in the World Series. So
I'm going to miss him from the division. I like that guy.
Well, you know what? He is the poster child for all-time injury player.
Let me just
one of the. I think him, Buxton, Eloy Jimenez, some other. Those are like the top 3 for all-time AL Century injury team. So.
Yeah. Well, Royce Lewis is about to join Mount Rushmore, I think, pretty quick, unfortunately.
Yeah, just put him up there with Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, funny.
Any
news, Lee, that you want to discuss?
Well, I'll kind of get into it because Jace Young was sent to he's going to be starting off in the minors. I'll get into that as part of my season preview, I think.
All right.
Okay, let's get into that.
Well, then let's dive right into it.
All right. So the goal for this season, the story for the 2025 Tigers is going to be about, can they replicate last season? Was last season a fluke, or is it something that's going to keep on going up and up, right? Because in case you don't remember, or if you don't know, 2024, the Tigers had a 0.2% chance to get into the playoffs on August 2nd. They went on a ridiculous run of 31-11 to make the playoffs, beating out the Twins for a spot. Went on to sweep the Astros in the wild card game, and then took Cleveland to the 5th game of the ALDS. And they did that mostly with all of their young guys, and also Tarek Skubal and pitching chaos. They had basically 1, maybe 2 starters for like the last 2 months. And in the playoffs, they did Tarek Skubal and then bullpen games. But they've been not doing that this season. We have more starters, I promise. A lot of starters, actually. But yeah, this team is young, and it's going to be about, was last season a fluke? So I'm just going to start off with a little bit of strengths and weaknesses overviews. So in terms of strengths for this team, pitching, big one. One of the best pitching staffs in the league, I would say. Versatility. AJ Hinch loves players who can play multiple positions. We have lots of players who can go to and play in multiple different spots. Speed. This team is young and it's fast. I don't know. I can't find the stat, but at one point last season, they were like one of the best in the league in terms of getting from first to third on singles, that type of thing. They're aggressive on the base pass. They get extra bases, and they're fast. And also, it's an advantage as the manager. AJ Hinch is a great manager. We saw that the last 2 months, especially with bullpen managing and pinch hitting management. In terms of weaknesses, the offense in general, statistically, one of the worst last season, even going into the playoffs. They got into the playoffs because everyone just started hitting decently well, but we have amazing pitching. So pitching is the foundation. The offense is not great, especially against left-handed pitchers. We don't have a lot of good right-hand bats. We're also starting off a little bit injured. Alex Cobb, Alex Lang, Parker Meadows, Matt Vierling, they're all starting off on the IL in some way. There's a few more too, but those are like the big ones in terms of being a little bit injured. So I'll start off with some pitchers. So obviously, starting off, Tarek Skubal. I mean, what's more to say about him that hasn't already been said at this point? He's pretty much the best pitcher in baseball, right? We can say that at this point, I think.
If he's not, he's definitely in the top, probably 5.
He's in the top 5. If you're watching on YouTube, we got the Baseball Savant page. His curveball is changeup. I don't know why I said curveball. His changeup is one of the best pitches in the game right now. He can throw up. He got up to like 102 last season. He can throw a 95 sinker. I mean, he's just that guy. He's so good. Triple Crown last season. He was 0.01 ERA from having Triple Crown MLB. Like, that's insane. Unanimous Cy Young. I mean, he's good. Like, there's nothing else really more to say about that. This was his first season pitching more than like 150 innings, I think. So we'll kind of see, maybe less a little bit concerned, but I think at this point there's no one really worried about, is he going to do good this year? He's going to do good.
So with Skubal, he's 2 years away, 3 years away from free agency. Has he hit arbitration yet? How far is he? And will they re-sign him?
I hope they re-sign him. The thing is, so he's got 2 more years of arbitration this year and next year. He's got 2 more years of team control. He's hit arbitration already. The thing is, his agent is Scott Boras, so he's not going to really expect. I wasn't really expecting for them to sign him this offseason because his agent is Scott Boras. I mean, he's got 2 more years of team control. If you look at it from like the player perspective, that's another year where you can have another season like the 2024 season. You get more leverage, that type of thing. I'm hopeful that they do sign him. I'm just concerned about it.
Have the Tigers signed any Boris guys in the last few years? Was Javi one?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. I don't really keep track of agent stuff except for I looked it up and I realized that Skubal was a Boris guy. But I don't know how to track that. I mean, Javier Baez he wasn't a Boris guy, but I don't know. I mean, the Tigers haven't really signed any huge free agents besides Javi Baez in recent years. So it's kind of hard to put a measure on if they are going to do that. I mean, I'm hopeful, but we'll see if Chris Hillage wants to open up his pocketbook a little bit. But I think I think like Harris wants to. It's just a matter of working out the deal, really. But yeah, Tarek Skubal, best pitcher in baseball. This stuff is ridiculous.
Okay. So
please sign him.
So we're just looking at what they did last year. Reese Olson looks like he's still pretty young. How do you feel about running Kenta Maeda? Is he even like a question this year? Is he out? Is he going to the bullpen? What is he doing?
He's probably going to be in the bullpen. He started off the spring looking really good, and then his third start gave up 2 home runs in the first inning, which is what he did a lot last season. So I think he's probably going to start off in the bullpen because we have better options in the start of the rotation. I don't want to say better, but more reliable options. He just wasn't good last season. He got better when he was put in the bullpen. So yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what ends up with him. Maybe last season was just a really bad season, and he'll come back and he'll play great for the first half, and then he'll play his way back into a rotation spot. I don't know. I think he's going to start off in the bullpen, though, because they're paying him too much money to just release him. He's not playing that poorly quite yet.
I can see him being a pretty good clubhouse guy, too, for young pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, we just need – all of our pitchers are really young for the most part. We got like Alex Cobb, he's older, but most of our pitchers are really young. Yeah, Reese Olson I like Reese Olson. He had a really good season last season. He got injured August, I think. He was out for a little bit, but at one point he had a sub-1 ERA for a bit, and also had like an 0-8 record because this team was incapable of giving him any run support. It was a little ridiculous. Also, if you watch him, he's got this baby face and like curly dark hair, and his face gets bright red when he pitches. It's fun. So that's
looking at this. Tyler Holton looks pretty underrated. That's a sweet season he had.
He is insanely underrated. I have this marked. I love Tyler Holton. He's had back-to-back 3 WAR seasons. He's one of the best relievers in the game. These are his. Okay, so I got his stats for the past 2 seasons combined. Right, the past 2 seasons he has pitched 180 innings in 125 games. He's had 6 WAR. He's had a 195 ERA plus, 3.35 FIP, a whip of 0.8, a whip of 0.824. I mean, he's just been incredibly good for the past 2 seasons. He can do it all. He's been an opener. He's been a middle relief. He's been a closer. Last season, he pitched into every inning at some point. He is so good. He's one of the best relief pitchers in the game right now. And he got an MVP vote last season. It was great. He got
not undeserved. I mean, 60-plus innings with that ERA. It's pretty good. I mean,
yeah, he pitched 90 innings, 94 innings with that ERA and that whip. He was so good.
Wow. What's surprising too is
he doesn't throw fast.
He doesn't throw hard. It's only his fastball velo, I guess, is at basically 92.
Yeah, he just throws all this breaking and off speed stuff. If we got him off waivers from the Diamondbacks, he's been so good for us the past 2 seasons. So he's definitely a really good relief guy. He's so much fun. I want to talk about Casey Mize for a bit.
Yeah.
Because he was a 1-1, right? If you just pull up his baseball reference? Because I want to demonstrate my point. I have a point, I promise. So, because he didn't have a great season last season, he's okay, right? But look at his over the years. right? Okay, so 2020 debuted in the middle of 2020 during COVID. He didn't pitch in the minor leagues because they weren't doing minor leagues. Not great, but again, just starting off, right? 2021, he gets a lot better. We get he gets a lot better. We're seeing good stuff. 2022 starts off a little rough, goes down injured, spends 2 months doing what God knows what in like the minor leagues and rehab, and then it takes him 2 months to figure out he needs Tommy John. Didn't play at all in 23. He also had to get back surgery, and then he came back from that in 24. And he did pretty okay in 24, but he also went injured he was on the 60-day IL for a bit, and he's looked so good in spring. He's his splitter is unhittable. He has a 0 ERA, I think, still. So, and from what I've read, it's always the second year after a pitcher comes back from Tommy John that's like when they get back to like standard, I guess, or what they are. So yeah, I'm a big believer in Casey Mize. I know a lot of people are like writing him off because he had a little bit of a rough year in 24, but I mean, can we just remember he went down? He had to get Tommy John surgery and back surgery, and he's just coming back from that in 24. So I'm a big believer in him. I think he's going to do real well. I'm pretty sure he's played his way into a rotation spot to start off. Yeah.
What about re-signing Jack Flaherty? Have you talked about him?
Yeah. No, I didn't. Jack Flaherty, so the question with Jack is last season was like an outlier season, right? So it's about can he replicate that season, which is why probably a big part of the reason why he didn't get signed onto like a longer deal that he wanted. But I am so happy he's coming back to Detroit. He was fantastic for us. He's a great number 2 rotation. I mean, he'd be number 1 in a lot of places, but we have Tarek Skubal on our staff. So, yeah, he had one.
I was just going to say, it's always awkward when you get traded and then you have to go back to the team that traded you away.
No, it was actually really funny because we traded him and we got 2 prospects, Trey Sweeney, who's actually probably going to start on the roster, and Thayron Lorenzo, who's great. And in the spring training, Flaherty was throwing to Lorenzo. Lorenzo's a catcher, and so he was catching Flaherty, who he was traded for. It was great. Mm-hmm. But he wanted to be back in Detroit. He really liked it. So I guess our in terms like our pitching coaches, Chris Fetter is a witch. That's all I gotta say. He does. I don't know because he took all these guys in the middle of the season who were in AAA and they had like 5-6 ERAs, and he brought them up, and then they're throwing 2 or 3 ERAs. It's great. So, yeah, I'm so happy to have him back. It was really great.
Well, and of course you trade him away thinking that the season's over, and then you get prospects back for him, and then you make the playoffs anyway, and then you get him back.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great deal. We did that twice, I want to point out. And we traded Andrew Chafin, and we got a prospect back, and we re-signed Chafin back on a minor league deal. So 2 out of the 4 of the guys that we traded away, we got back. So it's pretty fun. I guess Scott Harris is good at trades. That's what, or something. It just worked out really well. It worked out for both parts. I know Jackson Jobe, he's rookie. I think he's technically the number 2 pitching prospect now. From all reports say that his stuff is really good. The thing is, he has limited experience above AA. Like we pulled him up at the end of 24, right? He pitched in 4 innings in the 2024 season, and then was thrown to the wolves in the second wild card game, gave up a few runs. That was a bit rough. But he also only played like 4 games at the AAA level. So I think he's probably going to start off on the major league roster and then kind of go from there. But I also would like to point out that he added a couple pitches, including a curveball that is ridiculous. It's got like over 3,000 RPM, and apparently like only 9 pitchers at the major league level can do that. So his stuff has always been about that he has a really high spin rate. I don't know if you get much stats.
Probably not much on him, but
yeah, because he only pitched 4 innings, and 3 of those were against the White Sox. So
I pitched 1 inning.
yeah. So he doesn't have a large sample size. He's looked pretty good in spring, I guess, in terms like he's given up maybe a few too many home runs, but also it's spring training, so who knows? But like all the reports are like, yeah, his pitches look really good. So I talked a lot for that.
Yeah, no, that I agree. That should be one of the top rotations in baseball. I can think of a few teams that I might predict to finish ahead of them. Maybe like Dodgers, Mariners. Who knows? But
yeah, it's because it's the Tigers. People don't talk about it as much, especially because we haven't been good. But I mean, Skubal, Flaherty, and Olsen should all be good. Those are for sure. Mize is probably going to be. I'm hoping he's good. He's looked good. And Alex, we just signed Alex Cobb, and he's starting off injured. But he's always been good. And if Job is like anywhere near as good as we think he's going to be, I mean, there's a lot of predictions for him as Rookie of the Year. Like, I don't know how much I buy into that, but I mean, the potential is there. His stuff is nasty.
What did Alex Cobb do last year?
He didn't play that much because he was injured because he's 34, I believe. But he was on the Guardians, right?
2 years ago, I think it was. Nope, it was last year.
Yeah, so he didn't play a whole lot, but when he did, he was pretty good. So, yeah, he's always been good. So,
is there anyone in the bullpen or the pitching staff that you're a little concerned about not named Maeda?
Not really. I mean, it kind of depends on. I'm a little concerned just for Job, just because rookie season we haven't. I mean, like I said, he hasn't had a lot of experience at the major league level or at the AAA level, so he might struggle. I mean, he might end up in Toledo for a lot of it, but we have a lot of depth. Some other notes in the bullpen: Jason Foley, Will Vest, Bo Brisky. Those guys are all great. We also signed Tommy Canley. He's the funny changeup man. He threw like 57 straight changeups in the playoffs last season. Yeah, I mean the ones that all the bullpen. This is what great. The bullpen guys I was concerned about, we've gotten rid of. So there aren't really many on the roster that I'm like worried about. Matt Manning is probably worth noting. He's going to be in AAA. He's a good backup if we need like a 6th rotation guy, but he's just really struggled lately. And he was one of our first round draft picks. He's just had it a bit rough. But yeah, if like he had to come up a whole bunch at the beginning of last season because we had a bunch of double headers. So he's like a good like 6th or 7th place. But yeah, like I said, he's going to be in the minors. Yeah, that's pretty much my pitching info. Yeah, I talked about Tyler Holton and Kenta Maeda. Those are the two. Yeah. The bullpen. Yeah, I mean our bullpen is one of the best in baseball, I would say. It's just really underrated because it's full of guys named Brennan Hanafy and Bo Brisky, Will Vest. I mean, these are Jason Foley. I mean, these aren't star players. They're just guys that have been in our system and got pulled up or have been playing for a little while. And
that is the nice thing about the bullpen. The Rays have made careers out of guys that had really no business being in the majors, and they can get 60 good innings out of them and be a top 5 bullpen in the league and then cut them the next year and do the thing over again. So you don't need big names in the bullpen. You just need them to burn bright while they can.
Jason Foley's a great one because he went undrafted initially. So it's a great story. He's kind of been in the closer position, but Hinch doesn't really believe in that type of like position. What's it called? I don't know what the word is. Like
labels.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't really believe in like having a label for like this is the closer or whatever. It's just kind of whoever's best for the situation type of thing. And we have a lot of guys who are very good in a lot of different situations. So it's just kind of under the radar.
All right. Okay, what about from the position player side?
Yeah, so I'll first talk about the guys I think are the best players, and I'll kind of go over positionally each. Riley Green is easily the best position player, right? He's a primarily left fielder because Parker Meadows is our primary center fielder guy, but he's great defense. I mean, he honestly, I think maybe he didn't play as much because he was injured for a bit, but he should have been a Gold Glove finalist. But I'm not gonna get into that too much. He's great defensively. He's just gotten better every single year, so I expect this year he's probably going to go up a little bit more. He's also been trying to get healthier. He could easily be a 30 home run guy. He hit 24 last season. He's just really good at seeing the ball, getting the ball in play, and he slugs pretty good. He does strike out a bit too much, but he's gotten better at that over the years.
Looking at his spray chart, every coach is like dreaming over this guy. He's not pulling; he's all over the place.
He's got a lot of power because if you look, his batting average dropped a bit, but his slugging went up. And he's only 24. He's gonna be so good. He's got real potential to be like. He is a star right now, I'd say, because he was an all-star last season. He's great defensively, and he's going to be good for a long time, I think.
It's a little bit hard to win the MVP from left field, but he looks like someone who could do it if the stars align.
I think he could be an MVP finalist at least in the next couple of years. He's got that kind of potential. One point of concern for him is health. Because last season was the first time he played like over 100 games, I believe. Because what he did a lot when he was in his early years is when he played center, especially, he would go all out, like dives, big dives and stuff, and so he would just get injured a lot. And he did get injured again last season, but like only the one time, and there was like a minor injury. So that's kind of a bit of concern, but I mean, he's kind of like an all-around guy.
Maybe you said this, but is he, with Meadows out, is he going to play center to start the year?
He's probably going to play center more. I don't know for sure who's starting in center, but Green is probably going to play in center a lot.
How long is Meadows out for? What happened there?
We don't know because he has, I think it's a deadened nerve or something. It's just a nerve that's like asleep, and they just need to like wait for it to wake up. So... yeah, there's no real timeline on Meadows, which is kind of driving me insane.
That sounds like a very precise clinical diagnosis.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the most.
It's just asleep. We need to wait for it to wake up.
They need like a witch doctor.
Yeah.
Or something?
Yeah. Do we need to get some crystals and help that way?
Yeah, So. It's the musculocutaneous nerve in his upper right arm. Yeah.
Ah, yes, of course.
Of course. Yeah, so there's no timeline on that. And I really hope it's not going to be too long because Parker Meadows, kind of the next guy I wanted to talk about, he is so good. So last season, his rookie season, he started off horrible. I mean, he was batting under 100. Right? He goes down to the minor leagues. He gets injured a little bit, but he changes up his swing. He comes back and is playing like an all-star. He is ridiculously good in center field, just defensively, because he's 6'5", right? And his nickname is Baby Giraffe, which is hilarious because he doesn't look like a baseball player. He looks like a basketball player. He's tall and lanky. If he can just hit for average, he's a star right off the bat, just because defensively he is Gold Glove material.
Can we pull up like a YouTube video of his highlights for last year?
Yeah, maybe if we could find something. Because off the top of my head, I can think of like 4 different home run robberies. Right? Parker Meadows.
Not for nothing, just looking at that page, I'm going to try to do this without blowing. So kind of just looking at his page, like if anyone remembers when Byron Buxton was first brought up, that's exactly what he was. He couldn't really hit. He wasn't much of a slap hitter, but he had phenomenal defense and he could just go get everything done. So even if he just stayed exactly as he was just going to
Yeah.
be a good player. But yeah, then
But
he turned it around.
when he came back, he was like hitting very well. So his average is kind of skewed from like the first 2 months when he was hitting 100. If you could skip, and I'm assuming this is in chronological order, but it's probably going to be towards the end of Seattle. It's going to be a Seattle game in later. This home run is amazing. Top of the ninth, 2 outs, 3-2 pitch. I mean, this was insane.
Oh man, those fans were so excited.
Yeah,
it's
but there's
off Suarez too.
Okay, it's probably it's gonna be before the this home run. This is the good one. Yeah, and he's got another one like in this series that was amazing.
Is that pitcher Olsen?
Yeah.
I could tell by your baby face description.
He gets the baby face and his face gets bright red. It's
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone's most like other than like very rare exceptions. Yeah, there you go. Oh my God, not even
this home run robbery is one of the best ones. He has another. His best one was Seattle, but
yeah, that's pretty good. That cameraman for sure thought that was gone though. He kept pointing that camera up like up towards the lights.
But yeah, this was great.
I hope this nerve thing doesn't become like a Grady Sizemore type, like
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just really want to find the Seattle one. It's gonna be before the Padres hit. If you go back more, just because. Go back. Sorry.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying listening to people watch highlights on an auditory medium, you're in for a treat. Stay tuned here on the AL Central Rundown for more of this.
All right, I'll have to find it later.
I forgot there was like an audio version of this. But... Sorry, I would have asked for the YouTube video.
No. I'm just pointing out that
it's. I'll have to find it later and send it to you. But it was amazing.
We will post it on our socials when we find it because we have those.
I will find it.
Because we're a big boy podcast that knows what we're doing.
My point is, he is amazing in center field. He's defensively, he's so good. But yeah, he has this nerve thing, and there's like no timeline on when he's going to come back. So
isn't that like that should be horrifying that they don't know what that is? Because that sounds very much. What's the new pitcher injury that's worse than Tommy John? It's like Josh Stallman had it and Matt Harvey had it. I can't remember what it was, but it's like basically the surgery you have when they don't know what's going on. And I can't remember what it's called. Somebody's probably screaming it at their television right now, but I'll think of it later.
All right, sorry for 5 minutes of. Let's watch these video highlights. But
worth it. That was worth it.
My point is, Parker Meadows is going to be very good one day.
All right.
Yeah. Also, Tigers were 54 and 27 when he played. Not for nothing. Just
not it.
Yeah.
So who else in the lineup?
Let's talk about shortstop, Javi Baez. I want to launch his contract into the sun. Just hit for average. I'm begging you. Just please. Just if he could be average, that would be an upgrade. Because last season he was like legitimately the worst hitter in the game. It's so bad. We're stuck with him for like 3 more years.
Not to like really like put a damper on that parade, but I'm horrified for that second base. For that double play combo, because you now have who did they just sign for that? Graber Torres, who is not exactly known for his gloves, and you have Javi Baez, who is clearly on the decline. That could be a really brutal up the middle infield.
But he's still good defensively most of the time. He didn't play that much last season because he was injured a lot. And also, I would like to note he got injured at the end of August, and then we started winning a lot. So there's
And
that.
even when he declines defensively, it's gonna be like range and shit. Double plays, he'll always be pretty sick at.
Yeah, but no, he has a good point about second because Gleyber Torres isn't really. I mean, I like the Gleyber Torres signing because he's a bat and we need a bat. Like he had a down year offensively last season, but he still would have been like one of the best hitters on the team because, like I said, the team was very bad offensively, one of the worst in the league. So just average is fine. If he's an average hitters are better than most of the Tigers players in terms of hitting.
And I'm just thinking this up on the top of my head. So like to me, like Javier Baez is no longer should be a shortstop, even though his contract is paying him like one. Why not just move him to third and get acceptable? He has plenty of arm for it. He doesn't need to have the range for it, and there's a question mark right there, at least to start the season. No?
So he has been playing a little bit of third during the spring so far because we don't really have a third baseman. Our third base is looking to be by committee so far. So we're going to be playing a mixture of Andy Ibanez, Zach McKinstry, and Javier Baez at third to start off. And then Jace Young, if he comes up, too, would probably be third. But we don't really have a third baseman. But yeah, the thing is, I'm not worried about his defense. I'm fine with him playing at third if we have a shortstop. Like, the problem is, A, he has horrendous offense, and B, we don't really have a replacement shortstop. Trey Sweeney is good. It could be good, but also, where was I going with this? I had to hear the sirens and I got distracted. Sorry. Trey Sweeney, he was playing shortstop down the stretch for us in the playoffs. He was fine. I mean, he was better than Javier Baez, which is not exactly a high bar. He made this one play during the Orioles game that probably saved the season straight up. Yeah, I mean, we'll kind of see what he turns out to be because it was a pretty small sample size for Sweeney, but he looks like he can be a good defensive shortstop and then maybe an average bat. So we'll see about that. And then our other options for shortstop are Andy Ibanez and Zach McKinstry, who are both utility guys. I mean, Andy Ibanez, I would say, he crushes left-handed pitchers, right? I mean, he had that one really great hit against the Astros that cleared the bases, 3 runs, amazing. He's icon right there. But also, he's a 31-year-old utility guy. Does not, he's going to start declining at some point. And I really like him, but yeah, he's really good against left-handed pitchers. And then he can play defensively a lot of positions. I went a little off track there.
So I saw a horrifying headline, I feel. Maybe not horrifying. Maybe that's a bit dramatic. Spencer Torkelson in the outfield?
Yeah, it's called half of our outfield is injured, and Spencer Torkelson is having a good spring. So let's play around with him at different positions. So Spencer Torkelson, let's talk about Spencer Torkelson. He had an average rookie year in 2022, not really great. He picked it up in 2023. He had 31 home runs, and then 2024 was just bad, and he had to be sent down to the minors, and he came back up and was good, kind of, a little bit. So this is kind of, I think the writing is on the wall for him. This is his last season to be prove you're still that guy. Because he's not the starting first baseman anymore. Colt Keith has been moved to first to make room for Gleyber. I won't play any position besides second base Torres. So, which I'm fine with. I mean, Colt Keith is a better defensive second baseman, but he's also a good bat. It's just a matter of can he learn first base, which, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Spencer Torkelson, he's had a good spring. I will say he's hit 3 or 4 home runs. He's been playing well. I mean, and yeah, they're playing around with him in right field. So Hinch has said he's not going to be starting at right field regularly. It's just kind of just to feel it out and every once in a while start in right for going up against left-handed pitchers to get platoon advantage there, and also to be able to be put in at right as a pinch hitter occasionally. So we'll see how that goes. I'm a little nervous about that because he wasn't exactly great defensively at first to start off. He's gotten better. He wasn't exactly great. But yeah, the problem is he's been hitting not great. But he had a 30 home run season in 23, so the potential is there. And yeah.
I mean, not to like completely kill like kicking this dead horse, but not that first base is there to showcase anyone's arm, but his 4% his fourth percentile arm strength in an outfield seems very silly to me. But that only comes to account a couple times a year, so it's probably fine.
Yeah, he's not going to be playing it every day or anything. It's just to feel it out because, like I said earlier, AJ Hinch loves having versatility. I think at one point, like the Tigers led in terms of like at hits by pinch hitters or something like that. I don't know. I mean, that was just in the playoffs, but he loves.
Why not move Green over to right field? Is left harder at Comerica?
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, overall, I think left is usually harder, right? In terms of,
I think it's just big and like the whole outfield itself.
The whole outfield is big.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of Riley Green's a lefty and Spencer Torkelson's a righty, so it might be that. But I don't know about the reasoning behind not moving Green over to right. I don't know. I don't know baseball that well in order to be able to like make that assessment. But I think also it's because Riley Green he's been playing in left field. It'd be kind of rude to like move him over at right.
Well, they may be thinking that if as you said earlier, one of the issues in his career has been trying a little too hard in the outfield and injuring himself that way. If they can stick him in one position and have him learn the contours of the left field wall really, really well, they might not want to start moving him around so that he's, a little less used to playing here than he is there. They might want to preserve his health and just saying, look, this is your corner of the field. Learn this like the back of your hand and don't worry about what the center field and the right field wall is like,
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment. Yeah.
Just speculation.
All right.
Yeah, that's fair. In terms of catcher, Jake Rogers is going to be the starting guy. He's great. He's not in terms of his offense, not really there because catchers you don't really need that as much. He can slug though. He's got a lot of pop to him, but doesn't really get a lot of contact. But defensively, he's really good. I mean, he was a Gold Glove finalist last season. Well deserved because he's one of the best defensive catchers in terms of like he's really good at framing all that stuff. So there's that. I think I covered pretty much everything. Oh yeah. I didn't talk. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Kerry Carpenter. I've totally glossed over him. He's amazing. AKA Kerry Bonds, AKA Kerry Jesus was a Carpenter. He slugs against right-handed pitchers only. He doesn't really see a lot of left-handed pitchers because he doesn't hit well against them. But these are his stats against right-handed pitchers last season. He hit average for 305 and a 994 OPS. He slugs. He's one of the best statistically against right-handed pitchers last season. So, yeah.
Where would you put your expectations for this year's team versus where your expectations were for the 2024 Tigers?
I think, honestly, a little bit higher. So 2024, I would have said be competitive for a wild card spot. That was pretty much be competitive for a wild card spot or the Central kind of too, because we thought Central was going to be really weak. And then it's like, lol, NOL. No, it's not going to be easy. But I think my expectations for 2025 is going to be higher. I think its expectation is make the playoffs this season. They did it last season, and I know it was a bit of a miracle run, but they did it, and they won in the postseason. They should be able to repeat that or get better. So I think my expectations are they should be competitive for the division title, and they should get into the playoffs, at least as a wild card. I kind of bounced around a lot. So,
what's your prediction for the over-under?
Over-under, let's see.
I can tell you that at least with FanDuel, which is what I use, The Tigers over-under is, if we want to, Detroit Tigers 83.5 is the Tigers over-under.
Okay, so for reference, last season they were 86 and 76. My expectation is, I think pretty much a little bit. I'm gonna say 87. No, 89. Let's put it up a little bit more.
So
89.
89 probably wins the division. You are saying here right now, without a doubt, the Tigers are winning the division.
I think
No,
someone's going to get to
Guardians.
90.
Guardians won it with 92, didn't they?
I think someone gets to 90 in this division.
Yeah.
I agree. Someone will get to 90. I have no idea who, but someone will.
Yeah.
Let's see. Last season, the Guardians. Yeah, the Guardians were 92 last season.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but I think I'm gonna go with 89 because I think they're gonna be better than they were last season. I swear, but not by a whole lot. But they're gonna be better. So,
All right.
I'm gonna say that. Yeah, I hope that made sense to anybody listening instead of just watching, because I forgot. Oh yeah, not everyone's gonna be looking at the same. Me going, oh, go back. On the...
Okay, through the magic of editing, maybe that audio section just like disappeared. So they'll never actually see that. Well, they won't actually.
They wouldn't see it anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll find the clip of the Seattle home run grab because it was ridiculous. It was, yeah. Well, I was watching that at like 11 p.m. because West Coast, but it was, yeah, he's legitimately amazing in center field. Yeah. Did I go over everything that does anyone want me to go over something else?
That was pretty comprehensive. Maybe you should after each person's team preview, they should do their standings prediction, or should we do that as a separate thing?
Why not both?
Why not both? All right, where do you think everyone winds up?
All right, I think for the division title, do I have to say it? The White Sox are going to be last, obviously. Any of the four teams I think could win. I'm just going to separate it out. I think the Royals and the Tigers are going to compete for 1, and then it's going to be between the Guardians and the Twins for 3 and 4. So I think it's going to be some combination of Royals and Tigers at the top 2, Twins and Guardians in 3 and 4, and then the White Sox.
No, more committal. Give us a 1 through 5.
All right, you want me to give you a 1 through 5? I am going to say, I'm going to be Homer. I'm going to say Tigers, Royals, Twins, Guardians, and then the White Sox.
Okay. Let it be known.
Mark it down.
Yeah.
We are requiring you to place $100 bet on each of those on FanDuel. So let us know when you do that. Send us the receipt.
I have no money.
Well, that's why you win. Like that's gambling. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Is to talk about the 2023 Kansas City Royals. And as you can see, the 2023 Kansas City Royals did not do particularly well. They finished 56 and 106, and they were last in the American League Central. So coming into last season, my expectations were mild, but they were not super high. And I was very surprised when the Royals improved their record by 30 games. They went 86 and 76 last year. And that represented one of the biggest single season turnarounds in the history of Major League Baseball. So the Royals last season, they spent some money in the offseason and they acquired some new players. And the most the biggest thing they did was they added some good starting pitchers to the rotation. So Seth Lugo, obviously, was the biggest addition that they made. He had a 5.4 WAR season last year. Can I make this? Hold on. Did that go bigger on the
More of the screen showed up.
Okay. I'm gonna full screen this so it looks better. All right. So anyway, the Royals added Seth Lugo to their starting rotation last season, and he had a 5.4 WAR season and finished second in the Cy Young voting. It was his second season uh, as a starting pitcher in MLB. Prior to 2024, actually prior to 2023, he was mostly a reliever with a few games started here and there across his career. Um, and so, yeah, that was a signing that they made for, I'm not entirely sure what the contract numbers were, but it was a signing that they made for, a decent amount of money that netted them a pretty good season. Cole Reagans is a player that they got for an absolute steal during the 2023 season. If anyone remembers, Cole Reagans was acquired in a trade with the Texas Rangers for Aroldis Chapman. And if you just now learned that Aroldis Chapman pitched for the Royals, well, they got Cole Reagans in exchange for Aroldis Chapman. He finished fourth in the Cy Young voting, which means the Royals had the second and the fourth place finishers for the Cy Young voting, which I think you could look at that as both a positive and a negative for the Royals. I think obviously the positive would be that you would expect them to build off of the great season that they had. And of course, the negative would be that, they might regress in the other way. But I think these two guys, as far as Lugo and Reagans are concerned, this is probably one of the best 1-2 punches that you're going to get in MLB right now. And Cole Reagans is entering his age 26, or pardon me, his age 27 season, which I think is kind of a moment where I think for a pitcher, you can really break out and really start dominating if you want to when you reach the sort of 27, 28 range season. There's a lot of pitchers over the years who kind of ramped things up as they went into their late 20s. So I think those two guys, as I said, are one of the best 1-2 punches that there are in the MLB right now. Obviously, Brady Singer was another guy that the Royals had last year that was a pretty good player. But of course, they do not have Brady Singer anymore because they went ahead and acquired I would say, their biggest offseason acquisition, which was Jonathan India from the Cincinnati Reds. The Royals last season, as far as leadoff hitter was concerned, probably was one of the biggest albatrosses in their lineup last season was the leadoff position. And so I think adding Jonathan India is going to really add things to that position in the lineup. He obviously got off to a pretty good start to his career, India did, which was, there we go. Sorry, I was trying to get this to be half and half. So I think that looks better. Anyway, so Jonathan India started his career with the Reds and finished the 2021 season as a rookie with his highest WAR season, and then went on to win the Rookie of the Year that season. He has declined a little bit since then, but I think that Jonathan India will be a pretty good, what I like to call a change of scenery player. There's not been a lot of winning going on for the Cincinnati Reds in the past couple seasons, or at least since he's been on the team. So I think that the acquisition of him, even though you did give up someone good in Brady Singer, is going to be a very good acquisition for the lineup because last season there were a lot of empty bases in front of Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez and Vinny and others. So those are the sort of top three, or the biggest acquisition, along with the top two pitchers for the Royals. Michael Wacha was another signing that they made last season. He had a pretty good season. He got hurt, I think, midway through the year and missed a little bit of time. But he re-signed with the Royals this offseason, or not re-signed. I think they signed him to an extension, actually. I think he was under a 2-year contract, and then they signed him to a couple more years on that. But Michael Wacha, again, another very solid season for the Royals last year. 3.4 WAR, 3.35 ERA, and 166 innings pitched. So he was quite good last year as well. Alec Marsh, I don't think is going to make the starting rotation this season. He started out pretty well last year, and for a fifth starter, these numbers are not terrible. He started out pretty well last season, but then kind of fell off later in the year. But the guy that we're going to be looking at for the Royals' fifth starting job is going to be Kris Bubic. And I don't want that up there. Kris Bubic, again, is another young pitcher that the Royals have. He was injured for most of the season last year, came on later in the year, and put up .8 WAR in only 30.1 innings pitched. So he was pretty impressive late in the year when he came up. He is someone who I think is going to win the fifth rotation spot, replacing Alec Marsh. Also, Marsh got hurt during spring training. I think he's going to have a little bit of nagging injury problems. So I think we should expect to see Kris Bubic there in the starting rotation. And then finally, as far as the starting rotation is concerned, Michael Lorenzen is a player that I really enjoyed watching last season. He was a midseason acquisition by the Royals. Detroit Tiger, was he an all-star with the Tigers, Lee?
No, we traded him, and then he immediately threw a no-hitter.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Yeah, that was really fun. I'm a big fan of when we trade away players and then they immediately get better.
Yes, so he was a midseason acquisition by the Royals as well, and similar to what I said about Bubic, he came on midway through the season and put up 1.2 WAR in 28.2 innings pitched. So he was someone who really helped out the Royals in that second half as they made a push toward the playoffs. And I think all indications show that Lorenzen is going to be the fourth starter. So I think the combination of Lugo, Reagans, Wacha, Lorenzen, and Bubic are going to be a pretty exceptional starting five for the Royals as we look toward the 2025 season. My biggest concern, and this is always a concern with any team for these five guys, would obviously be health. I think when you look at someone like, especially Seth Lugo, when you look at someone like Michael Wacha, there's a lot of miles on these tires. Lugo pitched the most innings of his career by far last season. He pitched
34. That's kind of out of nowhere almost.
Yeah, he pitched 206 innings, which for the year of our Lord 2024 is a lot. Pitching over 200 innings isn't something that always happens. And then also Michael Wacha last season, he missed a couple starts. He missed a little bit of time, and he pitched 166 innings, which isn't a ton, but he's obviously, because he's been a starter his entire career, he's pitched a lot of innings through over the years. And so that would be my biggest concern, is if one of these guys run out of gas. But I think that being said, at least when it comes to starting pitcher, the Royals have quite a bit of depth. So Daniel Lynch, the fourth, is, I think, a decent option. You have a guy who's not going to be listed here. You have a guy, Noah Cameron, who's in the minor leagues right now, is another good player. And I will point out to everyone, just so that they know to watch out for this, Noah Cameron from St. Joseph, Missouri, which is
Oh,
where I am located at the moment. So
Nice.
St. Joseph is about 40 miles north of Kansas City. So I think he will be up eventually this season. When he comes up this year, that'll be a nice little local story for us to see Noah Cameron make his debut for the Royals. And then another guy who is someone that to look out for the Royals as far as starting pitchers are concerned is Kyle Wright, who used to be on the Atlanta Braves, missed all of last season. I think got hurt in 2023, but was a very good player for the Braves. I think he had led the National League in wins in 2022. Had 21 wins
Dang.
and a 3.7 WAR in 2022 for the Atlanta Braves. So I know, had a setback in spring training. I think it's like I'm not entirely sure what it was, but he will probably start the year on the injured list. But I expect that at some point at this season, he will be back and he'll be another depth piece for the Royals rotation. So with that being said, does anybody want to ask me a question on the Royals starting pitchers?
As starting pitchers, I had questions about your relief pitchers. Also, minor correction: Michael Lorenzen was an All-Star with the Tigers. I just completely forgot about it because he was every team is going to have an All-Star. Also, he shouldn't have been an All-Star because he wasn't that good.
Yes, and I like Michael Lorenzen. I think he's a pretty good player. I like watching him come out with the big guns and the tattoos, and I think he kind of looks like Jeremy Allen White from The Bear. So
good hitter
I
too.
think,
nice.
yes,
Yeah, he was trying to be a two-way guy this offseason.
yes, he was trying to get someone to sign him and designate him as a two-way player. He had a smattering of plate appearances during his career with the Cincinnati Reds. So, uh,
I just
seven
will
home
always
runs for 7 home runs as a pitcher ain't bad. So,
yeah, that's pretty good. He had 4 in 1 year in 2018. That's kind of
yeah.
impressive.
So, but he could make some appearances at the plate for the Royals. But I think there's not a lot of question marks when it comes to the starting pitchers for the Royals. But at least for 2024, there were a lot of question marks for the relief pitchers for the Royals. Relief bullpen was the biggest weakness coming into the season last year. They had some guys who came in. Will Smith, -9 WAR,
0.9.
6.5 ERA. Will Smith was an abject failure. It is the second worst thing done by someone named Will Smith. Uh, and I'll leave the rest up to your imagination.
Are we?
What's
Uh,
up with your labeled closer with a negative 0.5 WAR and a 5
uh,
ERA?
so so James MacArthur, he did most of the closer duties. Um, so it started out Will Smith was the closer. He was terrible. MacArthur came in and he was the closer for a little while. And he was another one of these guys who started out pretty decently. I think the first sort of handful of opportunities that he did pretty well. Um, but he was another guy who just got overused throughout the season.
Mm.
And then he got hurt, and then he just kind of tailed off. Um, and so I think he's an okay player. I just think they overused him and put him in a lot of high leverage situations, which he wasn't totally ready for. And then someone like Schreiber, same situation. John Schreiber, we acquired in the offseason. He started out really well and then just got overused as the year went on, got injured, came back at the end of the year. And so what the Royals did at the trade deadline and what they did this offseason was completely remake their bullpen. So Lucas Urseg came in. He became the closer midway through the year. He had almost 1 WAR in half the season for the Royals, 25 innings pitched, 11 saves. they brought in, and I'm going to actually switch to the fan graphs. I should have had this open when I started. Royals projection 2025 fan graphs. So just to get a look at this very nice. Oh, I've reached my free article limit. Oh, I have to click to become a member. I can't look at this. Oh my god. Okay, I'm just gonna freestyle this.
That greedy fan.
Yeah, that's okay. So guys like Lucas Erceg were brought in midway through the year. He did very well for the Royals. They signed Carlos Estevez from the Phillies on I think, 2-year, $22 million contract. And he, again, had a pretty solid year last year with between the Angels and the Phillies. And he's a veteran, and he is a guy who probably isn't going to have the same problems of breaking down, being overused throughout the season. Um, so I think that they have really improved their bullpen just through the guys that they got last year. Lucas Erceg, Hunter Harvey was another guy they got last year. He, I think, is going to be a good pitcher. Now, he did have a 6 ERA with the Royals last year across 5 innings. He had some nagging injuries, but I think he's going to be at full strength come the beginning of the season. I think the biggest weakness for the Royals last year was that they came in with a very bad, below average bullpen. But I think that they've made some changes, and I think the guys that they have starting out this year will be a lot better. And the guys who kind of fell apart at the end of the season, or after the beginning of the season, the guys who fell apart won't be relied on as much, and won't be in as high leverage situations that they may not be ready for.
So, I just had a
yes.
question. So I'm looking at. I keep getting over the rotation. And I know Brady Singer's gone. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about, I won't tell you I was the world's leading expert on Brady Singer, but it seemed like he was starting to turn around after what seemed like an eternity. And they got Jonathan India, which is fine, to get the bat. But like you said, Lugo's kind of wearing out. I'm really not a believer in Waka. And I feel like there might have been some smoke and mirrors there. So, what does the depth look past, from 6 to 10? Do you feel confident with that batch of players if someone turns into a pumpkin?
Yeah, and I think the thing about Brady Singer is looking at his baseball reference here, you can see 2020 he came in, he had 1.1 WAR across 60 innings during the COVID season, and then he had not a great season in 2022 or 2021, had a pretty good season a very good season in 2022, not a great season in 2023, and then a good season in 2024. So I think for him, I think the biggest thing for the Royals is he's been up and down, and I think it was the right time to sell high on a player like him. And so again, I think one of the second biggest weakness the Royals had last year was that off spot and not having a good enough guy up there to set the table for Bobby and Salvi and others. And I would say when it comes to the guys who are after the top 5 starting rotation guys, I do have a decent amount of confidence that if someone gets hurt or someone just, falls apart midway through the year, I think guys like Alec Marsh, I think guys like Daniel Lynch, like I said, Noah Cameron, Kyle Wright, players like this, I think, are decent players. And I think that the Royals have a pretty decent crop of depth pieces behind the top 5 pitchers that they can either trade for other assets or can come in case someone gets hurt. So I do have a decent amount of confidence with those guys.
All right.
So
anyone else?
No,
Go ahead, Lee.
you said that a bunch of your relievers were getting overused. Did you guys really struggle with like bullpen depth? Do you have like for that type of thing? Do they have like a lot of minor leaguers that can come up, or is it just like, well, these are the guys we have, we're going to use them, or did you? I guess what was the story there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was the guys that the Royals added last year, like Chris Stratton was a signing last offseason. Terrible.
Mhm.
Will Smith, probably the worst free agent signing in MLB last year. Terrible. I think, and Chris Stratton, he's getting paid. He had a player option for this year, so I think he's getting paid like $4.5 million this year. He's going to be on the team. You know, you're getting paid that amount of money, you're going to be on the team. And so I think that it was really a question of lack of depth and the guys that they went for just being complete, albatrosses in the bullpen.
Right.
But I also think, like I said, with my belief in the depth of the starting pitching, I think that also leads to depth in the bullpen because a lot of those guys that I mentioned who are going to not be in the starting rotation will likely make appearances out of the bullpen. And even someone that I didn't mention, like Angel Zerpa, I think he's pretty decent. Carlos Hernandez, I think, is pretty decent. Guys like this, Sam Long, another guy, I think is pretty decent. So I think these types of players that either came up midway through the season or who were acquired and proved themselves that were better than some of these guys that you're seeing right here. So I think the Royals have a pretty good amount of pitching depth, both in the rotation and out of the bullpen.
Gotcha.
So. But again, like I said, my biggest concern would be Lugo and Waka. If they're getting up there. We got, Lugo's going to be 35, Waka's going to be 33. There's a lot of miles on those tires, like I said, and I'm not expecting Lugo to have another 200 inning season. I think that would be a pretty significant outcome if he did. So. But yeah, so any other questions on the Royals pitching that someone wants to throw at me?
Not quite. I do want to, but I do like watching Zerpa, but he also I don't get the sense he knows what the strike zone is.
Yeah,
lefty that throws 97 apparently, and then
I don't get that. I don't get that sense either. But I think if you're a guy who throws as hard as he does, and we'll look up the baseball savant on Zerpa real quick.
Oof. So
there's some blue.
There's some blue here as far as these things, but fastball velocity 96.3.
Lots of ground balls.
I was about to say,
ground balls.
Does he throw a sinker? Is that his fastball? What does he throw? Yes.
Looks like he's sinker, slider, four-seam change. So, yeah, but he's one of those guys who can throw it, throw it with a flamethrower, and if you're a guy like that, you're gonna be in MLB. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, so pitching, with all that being said, pitching is going to be the strength of the Royals in 2025. And I think they're going to rely on preventing runs more than they are scoring runs. But when it comes to scoring runs, the Royals weren't terrible last year. If I remember correctly, they were 5th or 6th in the American League as far as runs per game were concerned. The biggest problem that I saw with them last season was that they were the biggest problem with the Royals last season is that they were very top heavy. Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, Bobby Witt Jr. those guys, those are some guys right there, in my opinion. And specifically Bobby, as we can see, had a 9.4 WAR season last year. So I think that having those guys on your team is going to be something that anyone would want to have. However, you also have a gentleman by the name of MJ Melendez, who we can focus on here, who produced a minus .9 WAR for the Kansas City Royals in 2024. They are trying everything they can to replace MJ Melendez. This includes, but is not limited to, putting Jonathan India in left field. Jonathan India has never played left field or the outfield, for that matter, at any level of his career, nor has where is he on here? Oh, there he is. Nor has Michael Massey, who they are also trying to put at left field. He has only played second base during his career so far. Um, so yeah, that is going to be a weakness of the Royals, is that they have a couple of guys at the top of the lineup who are, I think, going to be really good, solid players, and even more than solid, great players when you talk about Bobby, Salvi, and Vinny. But once you start getting down into some of the other guys, the Hunter Renfros of the world, the Nelson Velasquez's of the world. I don't actually think Nelson Velasquez is going to make the team this year, but as you can see, he was pretty dreadful at the DH spot last year in 64 games for the Royals. Um, Guys like that who just aren't, they're not going to do it for you. They're not the guy, and they are not even a guy. So I think that the Royals did a good job in getting India into the lineup, because I think India is going to be a very good player for them. I think he's going to be able to set the table for guys like Bobby and guys like Salvi. But I don't think that was enough. I really think they needed to get another stick into the lineup, and they tried to go after who's the player for the Orioles? Santander.
Santander.
Yeah, they tried to go after Santander. They tried to go after Profar. They tried to trade for a couple guys here and there. And it's not MLB The Show. You can't, you can't force teams to make moves with you. I think they needed to add more to this team as far as the offense was concerned. But if Bobby can put up another even a season close to this, if Salvi can do another season of 2 to 3 WAR, if Vinny can put it all together, if Michael Massey can show that he's a good player and put together, he only played 100 games last year, but he had, a 1.6 WAR season. If he can put it together over 140 plus games, and if a couple of these guys can turn the corner, I think the Royals will be back in the playoffs if they can get their offense figured out this season. But I think, like I said, for guys like especially Michael Garcia and MJ Melendez. Now Garcia, I think his numbers are a little bit not quite as good as they would seem. He had 37 stolen bases in, or where is he? Yeah, he had 37 stolen bases and 2 caught stealings last year. However, he only hit .231, had a .281 on base percentage, and slugged .332. 614 OPS, 72 OPS plus. Those, to use a term that I think is overused, you can't steal first base. Mm-hmm. So I think for him, for Michael Garcia, and for MJ Melendez, this is really going to be the 11th hour and 59th minute early in the season this year for them. Hunter Renfro, he's getting paid similar to what I said about Chris Stratton. Renfro's getting paid $8.5 million this year. He had a player option in his contract. He's going to be on the team. He needs to give you something.
He got
Really-
15 home runs, but what's his? He got a bunch of RBIs and a bunch of home runs, and then he's got 0 WAR.
Yeah.
Weird.
So he had an OPS of 689 and 92 OPS plus. The biggest thing for him is he's an outfielder. So, he's going to have to produce more than that as an outfielder if he wants to have a decent wins above replacement. And I think especially, like I said, with Michael Garcia, because he's a third baseman, I think his WAR is a little bit higher than one would think by watching him. But yeah, so I think if some guys can turn the corner and Jonathan India gives this lineup a spark, I think they can probably have a similar run producing season to what they had last year, as far as being able to get, maybe in the top half of the American League as far as runs scored. But I think they will rely more on pitching than they will on hitting.
So can we just take a minute just to gawk at Bobby Witt Jr. Because
It's ridiculous.
there's no telling talking about how freaking good he is.
Can
We can.
the division? That would be really nice. What if he played for the Pirates or something? Just get him out of the AL Central, and then I can root for him all I want. But it's really annoying to play him against him this much.
Well,
Can anyone even think of someone as well-rounded? He has. I'm looking at his baseball savant.
A-Rod. He's just A-Rod, rebound.
But faster and with better. He has a 100 percentile sprint speed. If you look at his savant page, it's all 98, 99 percentiles. And then he has outstanding defense. The guy does nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of love that he's in Kansas City, just because they probably the last person that was this hyped was probably Bo Jackson, unless there's anyone you can think of.
He's only 24 too. Oh man.
So Alex Gordon had a lot of hype coming in because he was kind of billed as the next George Brett. But Bobby Witt Jr., I feel very fortunate that I have both Patrick Mahomes and Bobby Witt Jr. in my life at the same time. And I think when it comes to those two, they are very similar in the fact that they're from the DFW area. They are players who came in with a lot of hype, and I think for a lot of fans, we're kind of going to separate our fandom pre-Mahomes and the Mahomes era, pre-Bobby Witt Jr. and the Bobby Witt Jr. era.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for Mahomes and Witt, they came in and they were immediately impact players.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Witt Jr., his 2022 season was, decent for a rookie. He finished, fourth in the Rookie of the Year voting. He had some decent numbers here. But his first game, opening day 2022, he had the game-winning hit of that.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that.
In the bottom of the 8th inning, first game in MLB had the game-winning hit. And so as far as just making an immediate impact, and then, 2023 building on that, 2024 going to the moon and back, he was, he just immediately caught on. And so I think, there's no telling what he's going to do in his career. But look at that.
The spray chart is great.
Man, his chase rate's a little too high. Maybe he should work on that.
What a bum. Look at that blue chase rate.
Yeah, what a bum. His walk percentage is only
he only average amount of walks.
But kind of what you said about your top two pitchers, or that it's great that they played up to their ceiling, and it's great that he did too. But on the other hand, that means that any sort of regression, even if they only regress to having a very good season, a 7-WAR season, for example, that's 2 wins that you have to make up elsewhere on the diamond, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think that's a decent concern. Go ahead, Lee.
No, I guess that's the main question about the Royals was last year just everyone having career highs at the same time? Is it?
Yeah,
yeah.
That's a decent point. And I think there were a lot of guys who had career highs on the Royals last season, but I think there are also a lot of guys who could take another step for the Royals this season. Like I said, Vinny Pasquantino, he was doing well. He got hurt toward the end of the year, but I think he's the type of player who could really take another step. I think Michael Massey, same thing, had a pretty decent year, had some injuries here and there, only played 100 games. I think he could take another step. And then even when you look at these like guys on the bench, Freddie Fermin was the Royals' backup catcher, and he produced 3 WAR. Like
Dang.
that's that's not nothing. Like he's a decent player, and I think he's gonna really factor into the lineup this year. Um, as far as DH catcher, splitting time with Salvi.
Yeah, maybe
So
Salvador Perez's elixir of life is going to wear off.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
if Nelson Velasquez was their primary DH and he put up -0.5, then I'd imagine Sal gets more innings at DH and Fermin will get more innings at catcher, right?
Yes, absolutely. And Salvi's been playing some time at first base, and he does a lot of DHing as well. And I'm going to look at his fielding to see how many appearances that he made at catcher last year. Standard fielding. Oh, there we go. So yeah, last year you can see he played 765 innings at catcher, 91 games. He played 392 innings at first base, 49 games, and he played 24 games at designated hitter. So I think you're going to see these first base and designated hitter numbers go up. And I would say he's probably only going to be behind the plate for about half the games this season, which will help him, obviously, because catcher is a very labor intensive position. But I think having a guy like Fermin, who's technically a bench player, I think the Royals really have this season not necessarily a traditional DH. They're just going to have 10 guys who are fighting for 9 spots.
Yeah.
And
That's
they'll
kind of
make
how it is with a lot of teams these days. It's way less of a structured permanent position than it has been in years past. So that's not really surprising.
Yeah, you don't have as many Kendrys Moraleses these days as you used to.
Yeah, like Carpenter is DH, but he also plays half of his game starting in right field. So like DH is now more of the extra batter position rather than the guy who only hits position.
The rotated day off, the half day off.
Yeah.
Yep. So there is kind of my breakdown of what I think is going to happen, pitchers and hitters with the Royals, and then, like I said briefly, just touching on some of the moves that they made. Bringing in Jonathan India was a big move. Bringing in Carlos Estevez was a big move, and then just a couple little signings here and there of guys who I think like. Kevin Biggio is with the Royals right now in spring training and is playing really well. He's going to compete for a roster spot starting off the season, and just Jack Caglione, I think, is going to be a really good player, and you might see him this season halfway through the year, especially if, like I said, if the clock strikes midnight for one of these two, Garcia or Melendez, if it starts getting late early for one of those two, you might see Cagliotani come into the I don't know if that's his nickname or if they call him Jack Tani because he pitched and hit at Florida.
I was about to say that's a heck of a thing to put on a guy.
Yeah, no
Give
pressure.
him Ohtani.
He's not going to pitch though. He's just going to I think they said he might pitch here and there in kind of like, emergency mop up type situations or just for funsies. He might pitch here and there. But I think he's gonna come in and he's gonna be a pretty good major league player. So, yep, I'm optimistic about the Royals. I think they have a high ceiling where I think they could clear the 90 game threshold this year. I think they could clear that threshold and compete for the division crown. But I also think they could take a step back, and I think they could probably dip below the slightly below. I don't think they would finish much below 500 with the group of players that they have, but I do think there is a potential that they could take a step back and be in the sort of 75 to 82 win range, somewhere in there. But I would.
And even not for nothing, even if they do take a step back, keep in mind 2 years ago they lost, like they won
100
60
games.
games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like even if they go back to 75, like there's still that window is still opening, and you still have probably the best player in baseball outside of Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, and I think that being said, it wouldn't be, the Royals when I believe, if I remember correctly, there was some stat. I think it was like from 2012 to 2015. So it was 12, 13, 14, or 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, something like that. The year they won the World Series, every year for the last 5 years, they had increased their win total. And then they took a step back in the years following that. So I think it's difficult to keep taking steps in the right direction for a team, and especially when you took such a big step last year, going third, which again, they had, I think, like the second or third or fourth biggest single season turnaround in MLB history.
Right.
So I think it's when you take such a giant leap for mankind, sometimes you might take a small step. You might take a small step backwards.
Progress isn't always linear. Sometimes it has to go down in order to go up.
Exactly. So
Not that
my
we
expectation.
Oh, sorry. Not to like jump into the off season too, but the books are pretty clean for next year, isn't it? It's probably Perez, Bobby, and then they probably have money to spend. So if they do want to get a big name free agent going into this, next year, like that's very possible too.
Yeah, and they offered. There was some weird story where Santander had agreed, and then the Royals offered, but because he had already agreed, he didn't want to go back on that, because I think the Royals offered him like $22 million a year or something like that. So they didn't. They obviously signed Bobby to a big extension last year, and they signed Cole Reagans and Michael Wacha to extensions this year. So they didn't make a huge splash as far as the right now. So I think that they and again, we're doing this a week before the season starts. There's been moves made in the twilight of spring training before. So I'm not going to say that can't happen. I think there were rumors the other day that the Royals were still trying to get Starling Marte, which is like,
Great.
woohoo! There
If
were
it was
rumors the other day.
2015,
I was thinking about this when he was talking about the outfield situation for the Tigers. Alex Verdugo's still out there.
That's what I was just about to say, is that there were rumors the other day that the Royals were going to sign Alex Verdugo, which
Yeah, there's all of a sudden with the Tigers, there's a bunch of like, oh, let's trade for Rafael Devers.
yeah, it's like Alex Verdugo. I wonder why that guy's still available. I couldn't imagine why he's still out there. But again, he would be someone. He would be a guy. So yeah, no, I think my expectation for the Royals would be, I think they're going to be around what they were last year. I think they're going to stay within about probably 3 or 4 games over under of where, plus minus 3 or 4 games of 86 wins.
Okay, where do you see the whole division playing out?
Where do I see the whole division playing out? I'm going to say that the bottom team is going to be the Chicago White Sox.
Bold move.
It's bold strategy, Cotton. I'm going to say that the fourth place team is going to be the Minnesota Twins. I think that I don't like that they have the exact same players who crapped their pants last year down the stretch. The third place team is going to be I think I'll put the Guardians at third. I'll put the we're all gonna pick our teams to win the division. So I'll say the Royals will win the division and the Tigers will finish second. I don't need to be cute here and say, oh, actually, I think the Royals are going to finish second and blah 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 is go. No, we can let Oren be the tiebreaker.
I was gonna say if it's being cute to pick your team to go second, then I'm gonna be Brad Pitt by the end of this.
So yeah, and then I think the Royals over under on FanDuel 82.5. I think they'll go over. Like I said, I think they'll be right around where they were in 2024. So right around 86 wins within a couple games, plus or minus. So I think that'll be they'll hit the over on that. But as I've said, I don't think someone's going to hit the under in the American League Central.
Yeah.
All the projections are super close to each other. It's yeah. Though I think one of them put the Tigers at under 500. I'm like, I don't buy that, but whatever.
It's all 82, 83 win over unders, and then let's take a look at what the White Sox over under is.
I think it's 54.5.
Which is really
50,
low.
Yeah, 54.5. So, but my point is, not all five teams in the division are going to hit the over. Someone's going to go under.
Right.
And I think it could be the Royals just as easily as any other of the teams. But I'll say that they're going to be around where they were last year. So
I did have one. I don't mean to be mean. So what happened at the end of last season? Because you guys all of a sudden lost like a bunch in a row and almost could have missed the playoffs. Like you guys had 2 7-game losing streaks in the last couple of months. What happened there? Did you guys get an injury?
Vinny got hurt. Lorenzen got hurt.
Ooh.
Urseg missed a little bit of the play that injured Vinny was Urseg and Vinny crashing into each other on a play at first. Ooh. Urseg missed a couple games. Vinny got hurt. Lorenzen got hurt, and Hunter Harvey, who was one of our bullpen acquisitions, I think he was probably hurt the whole year leading up to that, but he went on the injured list. So it was a combination of kind of, I think, because they got off to a really hot start as far as April, May. I think it was a combination of a couple of freak injuries and also just kind of running out of steam.
A little bit of regression to the mean in terms of
a little bit of regression to the mean, and I think just these things happen where you're not going to stay hot from April to September,
right?
Or from late March to September. So I think that's what happened, but they were able to keep their heads above water.
Okay, because I was curious about that because I didn't see any specific thing, but a bunch of injuries makes sense.
Yeah, and Vinny got hurt in August, got 2 screws put in his thumb, and then came back for the wild card series against the Orioles. So he was able to, and he had the game-winning hit in one of those games. So it was
nice.
Quite a. I said going into the playoffs that Vinny is going to have his Kirk Gibson moment, which he didn't totally have, but he kind of did. So. But yeah, so that is my preseason breakdown for the Kansas City Royals.
Well,
Yours is a lot more coherent than what I did. I just
A couple of great breakdowns, you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 division winners.
Yeah, we're winners already.
Mm-hmm.
I am unashamedly a homer and overly positive. So.
I'm excited, and I want you guys all to pick your own teams because I want to watch the psychological unraveling. As at least 2 or 3 of you have to join me in the basement.
Yeah, I'll get that in like June. So
I also like, has anyone ever been really high on Cleveland, but they always finish first or second? Like, they always have a lineup that you're like, this might be the year they start falling over, and they're still first. So, like, we're setting ourselves up for that again.
Probably. Well, whatever.
I think Jose Ramirez is just their Yadier Molina. As long as he's around there, their ceiling's pretty, or their floor is pretty high.
That's fair. I mean, to be fair, I don't really know much about the Guardians. I just put them lower because I don't like them as much, and also I don't see how they got better this all season. So, but maybe I just don't know anything about them.
They lost Josh Naylor, so they got more handsome. I'll tell you that.
They lost their second baseman too, right? Their Gold Glove runner, and they traded him to Toronto or whatever.
Yeah, but they've got that top prospect, Bazana or whatever.
Yeah.
The Aussie. So
well, I do have some Ohio people in my life who are Guardians fans. So we'll see what happens with them. But we may very soon, we will very soon have a Guardians fan to add to the lineup here.
See, we don't just hate Ohio. I mean, I do, but like collectively, we don't. We're not just leaving them out on purpose.
Nobody actually likes Ohio. Like, it can be kicked out of the Midwest and it would be fine.
No, yeah, it could just be turned into a lake, and then we could just have a 6th Great Lake. It's fine.
All right. Well, with that and the hate in Ohio, I think our time is we're almost at 2 hours, which I didn't think any of us thought we would get to this long. But hopefully, you guys, everyone listening and watching this, enjoyed it, and we'll be back. Probably in a couple of days, because we got the season coming up and we need to preview at least 2 more teams. And then if we can figure out if guy from Cleveland is ready to make an appearance, then we'll talk his team, and then we got the season, and then we just start trash talking. So
well, I got to learn who a bunch of guys are before in the next couple of days.
Actually, that would be kind of fun. Just make up names and see if we catch it.
Yeah.
All right. Before we sign off, I would like to say we have now made Blue Sky and Twitter accounts. If you want to check us out there, at AL Central Rundown, bluesky.social, and then at ALC Rundown on Twitter. So I'm mostly going to be the person posting for that. So I'll be posting announcements for when episodes are uploaded, and also throughout the season, just news type stuffs and that kind of thing.
All right. Well, with that, I think thank everyone for watching. We'll see you guys next time.